I give him just a second? Okay, well, we will call the Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Commission to order for the May 5th, 2021 meeting. Roll call, please. I know I'm jumping a little bit, but roll call, Lyra.
Amanfor?
Here.
Boyd?
Here.
Morgan?
Here.
Nunley?
Here.
Osmany?
Here.
Schumacher Hodge?
Here.
Stajabu?
Here.
Starks?
Here.
Wu?
He's signing in right now.
He's here
Who?
now. Daryl, say here.
Okay. Okay, great. You have a
Here.
quorum.
Thank you. All right. Because the meetings are currently being held remotely, options for comment include comments may be emailed to public comments at shra.org, and they will be read into the recording during the meeting. Comments may also be made by phone by dialing 888-970-1444 to comment during the citizens comments agenda item. Please call after roll call, which would be now. And to comment on a specific agenda item, please call at the beginning of that agenda item. Due to using Zoom meetings, I will be looking for waving hands, and we'll call on people as we go. With that, hopefully everybody's had a chance to look at the agenda and the minutes. We will be hearing items 2 and 3 together tonight, and we'll hear items 7 and 8 together. Is there any other changes to the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda stands as presented. Lyra, could you read the public comment paragraph for us?
Sure. While the commission welcomes and encourages participation in the commission meetings, please limit your comments to 3 minutes so that everyone may be heard. SHRA provides opportunities for the public to address the commission at this time in order to listen to opinions regarding non-agendized matters within the subject matter jurisdiction of SHRA. Consistent with the Brown Act, the public comment periods on the agenda are not intended to be question and answer periods or conversations with commission members. Members of the public with questions are encouraged to contact staff before or after the meeting. Members of the public wishing to provide comment should either email comments to publiccomments@shra.org or be present or present them verbally by calling 888-970-1444.
Thank you, Lyra. Always a good time when she reads that for me to turn my phone off. With that, we'll take a look at the minutes. Is there any changes or comments on the minutes from our last meeting? Seeing none, the minutes are approved as presented. We have one item on consent. The Housing Authority participation in the Carmichael Property Business Improvement District. I'm open for a motion. We don't have to comment on that, do we?
Second.
We have a motion, a second. No comments on there, is there, Lyra? Okay, roll call.
Amanfor?
Aye.
Boyd?
He shook his head yes.
Okay.
Sorry about
Morgan?
that. Aye.
Morgan?
Aye.
Osmany?
Aye.
Nunley?
Aye.
Schumacher Hodge?
I'm going to abstain.
Stajabu?
Aye.
Starks?
Aye.
Wu?
Aye.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, we have under business and discussion, we're going to hear items 2 and 3 together. the COVID-19 response, CARES Act framework, funding priorities, homelessness, Sacramento Emergency Rental Assistance, SHRA, Phase 2 program, city report, and the retroactive authorization to accept COVID-19 Tenant Relief Act funding in the amount of $3,593,637 from the State Department of Housing and Community Development, and amend an agreement with the Housing Authority of the County of Sacramento for a total amount not to exceed $67,696,467 to administer the Sacramento Emergency Rental Assistance Phase 2 program. Approve the Housing Authority of the County of Sacramento budget to utilize the additional funds for the administration of Sacramento Emergency Assistance Phase 2 program, and approve the appropriation adjustment request in the amount of $3,593,637. County report, rental assistance demonstration 2, Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act hearing and approval of tax exempt bonds upon agreement and loan commitment. There, I actually got through that.
Good. Okay, so we have Mary Liz Paulson who's going to do the presentation.
Good
Welcome,
evening,
Mary.
Commissioners. My name is Mary Liz Paulson, and I'm Assistant Director here at SHRA, overseeing the SHRA program. Tonight, you have 2 staff reports in front of you, asking the City Council and the County Board of Supervisors to approve receiving additional funds from the state. I'd like to take this opportunity and give you an update on the SHRA 2 program. I know we have a couple of new commissioners, so I wanted to give you a little bit of background. Who knew back in March 2020 that we would still be in the midst of the pandemic now more than a year later? SHRA and other offices and public places began closing to the public in mid-March of 2020. As the closures continued and people were unable to return to work, there became a great deal of concern about families unable to earn income and unable to pay rent. Homelessness was a big concern before the pandemic, and now there was a concern that this crisis would increase the number of families experiencing homelessness even more. Numerous reports were predicting an eviction tsunami. In a 2021 report by the California Legislative Analyst Office, it was stated that 1.4 million Californians were out of work in 2021, and that Californians owed more than $400 million in unpaid rent as of December 2020. Those at most risk of homelessness related to the pandemic were low-income families, renters, and communities facing a disparate impact from the COVID virus. In the fall of 2020, city and county leaders committed using Community Development Block Grant and COVID relief funds to provide rental assistance to families unable to pay rent due to the pandemic. They asked SHRA to develop and implement this program. The Sacramento Emergency Rental Assistance Program, or SHRA, was born. As you can see, we served more than 1,000 families and gave funds to over 780 landlords. I would like to introduce you tonight to Olga Durudi, one of the households who received assistance from the SHRA 1 program, to explain how this program assisted her. Olga?
Yes, hi everyone. Thank you for introduction. I'm a little bit nervous. Just forgive me about that. I'm honored to be with you this evening and to have a chance to say thank you to all of you remarkable people from the Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency, commissioners. I know you guys work tirelessly on the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, and I'm one of the participants who got help with covering the cost of my rent for this program. And it has tremendously helped my life during this pandemic, to say the least. For the most of my adult life, I've been working nonstop as a single parent. I'm sure you parents out there know that you have no choice of slowing down and that we can't afford to not work. I've been running a limousine company for several years and been very busy and basically working 24/7. And I provide a good living for me, for my kids, and of course for my mom. Ever since COVID-19 hit, everything's changed. My business came to complete halt in March of 2020, and since then I'm making zero income. I needed to drain all my savings, try to keep up with the bills. I was riddled with anxiety and depression from not knowing when things would get better or ever return to normal. Thankfully, a few months ago, I got a call from Ashley from A1 Property Management. She told me that there is a program that helps renters like me who struggle to make ends meet, and they help with the rent. And she gave me the website for SHRA. Of course, I'm pretty skeptical of getting accepted, but I apply anyway. The process is very easy. I read all the programs and I click apply. Few weeks later, I got the call. Still remember the name of the representative from the SHRA, Mr. Pineda. Very knowledgeable, very helpful, very patient, because we don't know, what to expect. But he assured just submit all the documents, a few emails back and forward, and that's it. I keep checking, on the website, see, approval process, and you know what, I got lucky, I got approved. And I still get emotional. I'm sorry. Word cannot express how grateful I am, for the urgent, financial help towards paying my rent from the SHRA program. You help me and many people like me immensely. I say this with most of my gratitude. Thank you so much for helping me when I needed the most. Had I not received your generous help, I would have been deprived of my place to live. You are truly changing lives, guys. Thank you so much, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Olga. Thank you very much.
I don't know, do we have any commissioners who wanted to say a few words before we move on with the presentation?
Well, Olga, you're not alone, right? I think you need to know that. And there's a lot of people out there who are struggling. And someone told me once, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And if that's something, then you're strong right now. And the people in the community are strong. And together, we're going to look back at this one day, and the fact that we've overcome, the fact that we stood together, is going to mean something. So, on behalf of our commission, you are welcome, so welcome.
Thank you, Sam. You always speak so well for our commission.
Sajabu, I think, has her hand up, Gail.
Yes, I want to congratulate you too, Olga, for your courage and your fortitude and taking a chance and following through and taking care of business, because that's what it took for you to get that help. So congratulations. I can tell you're a very special person, and you're more than welcome for anything we've done to help. Okay. Take care.
Any other commissioners? Well, thank you very much for coming tonight, Olga. We appreciate your kind words, and we appreciate the fact that you were able to use the program and have a good outcome on that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Olga. Just as the SHRA program was winding down, The then President Trump approved $900 billion in a federal stimulus bill in December of 2020. $25 billion of this went to rental assistance. Cities and counties throughout the country were eligible to apply for funding. Sacramento City and County applied for and received the amounts listed here. Governor Newsom approved Senate Bill 91 in January of 2021, allocating additional funding for rental assistance. In California, the state funds were added to the federal funds, and local jurisdictions could decide how to use the funds to serve their residents. The state offered three options. Option A, the state administers both funds, both federal and state, for the jurisdiction. Option B, the jurisdiction administers both funds. Or option C, the jurisdiction administers the federal funds while the state administers the state funds. Both the city and the county of Sacramento chose option B and then asked SHRA to develop and implement this program. Because this was the second version of SHRA, using different funding and with different rules, it became SHRA 2. Here you can see the initial funding amounts from the state awarded to the city and the county. You can also see the additional award of $3.6 million. I rounded it so I didn't have to struggle with the numbers like Gail did, to the county, and $1.8 million to the city. That is the basis for the staff report in front of you for your consideration tonight. That brings a total of about $99.8 million to the city and the county to assist low-income households who are unable to pay for rent and utilities due to the pandemic. The SHRA 2 application period opened on February 25th and remained open for about 3 weeks. During this time, almost 13,000 families or households applied for assistance. Here you can see the number of households applying with addresses in the city of Sacramento and how many applied outside the city but within the county. And you can see there were about 2%, not very many, but a handful who applied who were outside of the county. Here you can see a chart showing the amounts that were requested in those applications. So we had about 5,000 applications received in the city, asking for a total of almost $17 million. In the county, there were about 7,600 households applying for a total of $24 million. We are able to pay for not only rent, but utility arrears, and including also internet arrears. So the total that the applications were asking for is over $50 million. And you can see how that's divided between the city and the county. The average amount that folks were asking for at the time was just over $4,000. Here's information about who applied. And you can see based on income, about 50% of the folks who applied were extremely low income or had incomes at 30% of AMI and lower. And you can see 28% were very low income and 19% were low income. 80% of those were over the threshold of 80% of AMI, and they're not eligible. And that's based on the federal and the state regulations. So now you can see the number of people in the household that were applying. And you can see we had the largest number by far of single person households. Over 3,300 families were single person households. You can't see because it's very small, but we had one family of 13 who applied. The average family size was 3 family members. Here you can see information about the race and ethnicity of the folks who were applying. In anticipation of questions, because I know there were questions last time about the other category, the majority of those who identified as other also identified as being Hispanic or Latino. I know that last time when we talked about SHRA and the race and ethnicity, there was some question about whether Hispanic is a race or an ethnic group. That's how HUD defines it, but we can see that we here around the table, we're not the only ones confused by that separation. So the numbers are about the same in those two groups. Here you can see how many how much we have been able to disperse in serving the families. We are actively working on over 3,200 applications right now. We have 3,200 applications actually in the hands of our staff who are working with them. Add to that the 675 here that we've already paid out. So you can see we've got staff that are busy working through all of the applications and working with the landlords. You can see how much we've paid out so far, $3.1 million, and the average disbursement is $4,682. When I looked at this, I was amazed at how close the average disbursement is from the city and the county. We have contracts with 14 community-based organizations. They are working with us to provide outreach within their communities so that folks know about the opening of the application period. They are assisting folks in submitting the application. And then once the application is submitted or during the process, if families and households and also landlords need help submitting documentation, they're a resource to help. They speak a total of over 31 different languages that are spelled out here, and they're located throughout the city and county of Sacramento. And speaking of outreach, we are opening the application period again on Tuesday. So Tuesday, just after midnight, the application period will open again. This does not mean that we are done processing the folks who have already applied. We are still processing those applications. However, we want to make sure that we have an adequate pipeline of applications for the future to expend all of the funds available. So we are opening the application period beginning next week. We do not plan to close at this point. This will allow us to continue to serve those with the lowest income first. For more information or to review our frequently asked questions, please go to our website, which is identified there. That concludes my presentation. Are there any questions?
Okay, can we have our screen back? Thank you. Okay, questions of commissioners.
Well, I'm going to beat Barry to the questions. I'm sorry, man. I'm busting you out, brother. I love you. You know that. We've noticed with this, this is really a kind of offshoot of COVID. People have lost jobs due to COVID, loss of income, so forth and so on. There's segments of this low income, and this is just a general, maybe reflection, maybe if staff wants to address it, Lachelle, I'm not aiming this at anyone. But we have that traditional low income segment. We've talked about that, they know where to go. These are the generationally low income people who've been low income for a while. I don't want to say generational, God forbid, but you get my point. And then there's that segment of people, what we at SMUD call new low income. They oftentimes, there's degrees of shame about even asking for help. There's the ignorance of knowing where to go when they do need help. And I'm wondering just, how much of that segment, that new low income, are we touching? And I know you mentioned the AMI, but are we touching any of that new low income? They may be a couple of paychecks out of poverty. Many of them have those jobs that are just there, and maybe two workers in the house. One loses the job, and the next thing you know, they're real struggling. Is that, have we touched any of that with our segment, or is it just traditional low income?
We have that data, do we?
So actually a couple of things have changed, so I can answer your question. First, the SHRA 1, we were helping families up to 50% of area median income. With SHRA 2, we're able to help people up to 80%. So we are helping people at a higher income level, is one comment. The second comment is we are providing, through the funding, we are able to provide not only rental arrears, but prospective rent. And so we are looking at families with incomes right now. So if it's someone who was earning in the past and was not low income, but because of COVID, they don't have income. And so they would be the new poor or the new low income, as you're saying. Based on their 2021 income, they would be eligible to apply for the prospective rent.
Okay.
So yes, so there's a few changes in the program that help us serve a larger population.
All right. Cecile.
Thank you so much. I really did appreciate the presentation, so I want to just say thank you for that. The other thing that I had a question on, and I did send an email, and I see that you have it included in your presentation, was the list of community-based organizations, because that was one of my questions. In the write-up, I want to say on page 1, 2, 3, 4, it states in one of the paragraphs, the Housing Authority has contracted with local community-based organizations to assist the SHRA 2 program by providing outreach. And then they say and they call them CBOs. The CBOs serve low-income renters in the city and county of Sacramento, so on. Additional information about these organizations in the SHRA 2 program can be found at, and it lists that same website that you listed. However, when I went to that website, I looked all over and I couldn't see the list of community organizations at all. So it left me with a question as to, does anybody know? I mean, I know these organizations are trying to reach out to the community, which is great, and that's what you're contracted with them to do. But I was wondering if you had it on the website and people needed additional resources or something, maybe having the list there would be helpful.
Yes, and thank you very much for that comment. So here is the website. And if you go to click here, where can I go to get help submitting additional information? If you here, it opens up and provides all of the organizations that we listed. And I think you had really good feedback, really good comments, Cecil. So we are changing the name of that link so that I'm hoping tomorrow it will now say if you need assistance from a community-based organization or something like that, it will be much more clear that people will be able to click on that and be able to see all of the organizations here and be able to go there directly.
Okay, thank you so much. I think that's great because, I didn't click on that link because I thought it would be in-house organized, something in-house.
Right.
I never would have thought that that's something that is really additional resources that I could go to a different location or anything like that. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate that.
Sure, and thank you for the feedback so that we can make that more apparent to more people.
Yes, great feedback. Thank you, Cecile.
All right, thanks, Cecile. Barry.
Thank you, Chairman Morgan. Before I ask my question, let me, if I can, piggyback a little bit off of what Commissioner Menley was saying, asking about. In addition to the California Black Chamber of Commerce, which is the statewide organization, are we also reaching out to the Sacramento Black Chamber of Commerce and in general, the Sacramento Chamber of Commerce, but more so the Sacramento Black Chamber of Commerce?
Yes, so we actually did a request for proposals that we published and all sorts of groups responded. And that's how the California Black Chamber came to our attention. Additionally, we researched and reached out to all sorts of additional community-based organizations so that we were trying to make sure that it was accessible to all people in the community based on language or community organizations that they knew and were familiar with or that were located near them. So we're trying to make it a diverse group and limiting somewhat based on funding. But I do not know that either one of the groups that you mentioned have reached out to us, or that we have reached out because we have the chamber. And they're helping mostly actually with our outreach. And so our public information officer is working very closely with them to help get the word out in the communities.
Thank you for that. My question, coming off a little bit of Commissioner Sparks had asked, well, here's my question. As you stated, the not only, well, SHRA 2 is based upon, can be based upon the 2021 projected income. My question is, how far into the future will the SHRA 2 program cover an applicant's rent and or utilities?
Yeah, and that's a really good question. The answer is June 30th. And June 30th was established because in California, that's when the eviction protections, and actually the national just extended the eviction protections also through June 30th. So if people are paying a portion of the rent, then they are not able, they cannot be evicted for non-payment, at least through June 30th. So we'll see. I know that there's more funding
for the construction and permanent financing of the Marisol Village Block C project. The 84-unit Block C project is composed of townhouses and garden-style walk-up buildings with resident access to amenities located in previous phases, including management offices, community rooms, fitness center, a business center, swimming pool, barbecue area, a community park, and garden. The developers are McCormick Baron Salazar and Sacramento Housing Authority Repositioning Program. The John Stewart Company will be the property manager, and resident services will be provided by Urban Strategies. In December 2020, the Housing Authority Board approved a $2.5 million loan commitment for the project. Unfortunately, the project was not awarded 4% in state tax credits or bonds. To make the project more competitive for funding, the project's proposed sources have been restructured to eliminate the state tax credits, decrease the conventional loan, and increase the federal tax credits and Housing Authority Fund gap loan. Also, the deferred developer fee has decreased by $1.3 million. Yesterday, City Council, acting as the Housing Authority Board, approved another $2.5 million for a total of $5 million in Housing Authority funds. If the project is successful in receiving a 4% bond award, construction would begin in spring of 2022. In closing, staff is requesting approval of the $5 million loan commitment. Staff is available to address any questions you may have.
All right. Any questions of commissioners? I see Sam almost coming through the screen there at me. No questions? We can't let her off that easy. So I'll have one comment anyway. We might be able to do something with the lighting for her. I think her background and her face are close to the same color.
It's just a little blue. I didn't want to tell you that because I would just mess you up.
Anyway, maybe before your next time they can put a spotlight out there or something. All right. Seeing no questions, is there any public comment, Lyra?
No, it makes it worse.
Okay. Well, in that case, I'll take a motion.
I'll move.
Second.
Wu and Nunley. Roll call, please, Lyra.
Amanfor,
Aye.
Boyd,
Aye.
Morgan.
Aye.
Osmany,
Aye.
Nunley,
Aye.
Schumacher Hodge,
Aye.
Stajabu,
Aye.
Starks,
Yes.
Wu.
Aye.
The motion carries.
Great, thank you, Lyra. Next, item 5, loan commitment for 4995 Stockton Boulevard, affordable housing development.
Flanagan, Ann Nichols, Management Analyst. The report before you requests approval of a $15 million loan commitment to Mercy Housing California for the acquisition and construction of the 4995 Stockton Boulevard Affordable Housing Development. The workforce housing development will be located at 4995 Stockton Boulevard on a 7.76 acre site. The 200-unit project includes 1, 2, and 3-bedroom units with affordability restrictions between 30% and 70% of area median income. The construction costs reflect the varied architectural design features and styles of the 4-story buildings with offices and community space on the ground floor, 9 3-story buildings and 13 2-story townhomes. The development does require the demolition of a 44,000 square foot warehouse built in 1958 that was the location of John's Furniture. Given the former uses of a dry cleaner, gas station, and car wash on this site, approximately $2 million towards the environmental cleanup and demolition is reflected in the total development costs. Amenities include property management, community room with kitchen, computer lab, barbecue and shaded picnic areas, courtyard seating areas, and park with 2 playgrounds and an open field. Mercy Housing is the developer, management agent, and resident services provider. There will be 1 full-time and 1 part-time resident services coordinator. Resident services will include programming to support housing, financial literacy, life skills, and after-school programs. The City of Sacramento set aside $31.5 million of general and Measure U funds in the fiscal year 2020-21 mid-year budget to seed a city-held housing fund. This revolving loan fund will be used to further affordable housing developments. The $15 million SHRA loan is comprised of $10 million in city general and Measure U funds, $4 million in housing trust funds, and $1 million in mixed income housing funds. Other financing includes 4% low-income housing tax credits, tax-exempt bonds, state tax credits, tax-exempt loan, deferred developer fee, general partnership contribution, and e-waivers. Entitlements are approved and subject to this loan commitment approval. Mercy Housing will be applying for tax credits and bonds by the end of May. And if successfully awarded, construction is anticipated to begin in spring 2022. Please note that Council continued this item from May 4th to May 11th. In closing, staff is requesting approval of the 4995 Stockton Boulevard Affordable Housing Development. Staff is available to address any questions you may have.
And I also see we have a representative from Mercy Housing available too. So we'll start with Cecile.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate the presentation and the explanation. I do have a concern here that I noticed on this one as well as on the following item. And the first item of the recommendation is to pass a motion for waiving the Sacramento City Code that mandates that there is 10 days prior to council action, but nowhere in the analysis did they say why that waiver was needed. And I know that this has come up before, and I'm a little concerned that the public doesn't have the opportunity that has been afforded them to review the contract. So I'm a little confused why that is in there and why it's felt that it's needed.
Okay, so the waiver, it was included there because the project was going to be heard by the council last night, but due to the size of the agenda, it was moved to next week. So by that time, there'll be more than 10 days. But normally, if you see something like that, the council does have a requirement that 10 days before the item is posted, that it's coming up for discussion. However, in this particular situation, we are trying to meet a deadline to make an application to the state for the tax credits that if we miss that deadline, it could end up delaying the project into next year in terms of the tax credit round. So that was why we had a sense of urgency in moving forward. But luckily, this was continued, so there is more time for review.
Oh, okay. So we don't need that in there at all?
it was in there because at the time we thought that it was going to get approved. So you had already received it in your packet, and we didn't find out till late yesterday that it was going to be continued.
Okay, so I guess what I'm saying is then that recommendation for the waiver, you no longer need that waiver because it's continued anyway.
That is correct.
So can we take that out, or when we make the motion, can we have that item, part of it deleted since it's no longer?
Sure. Do we need to have that in there? Yeah, it can be deleted from the commission's action.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Marcia.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. I had a question. I just wanted to clarify how much of the project and the units are going to be for low income, or what. I know you said some percentages. I didn't know if that was the income of the people that could apply, or that was the number of units that were affordable.
Yeah. So in the staff report, it's attachment 7. We have a project summary that breaks down the AMI levels. So you'll see 27 at 30% AMI, 71% or 71 units at 50% AMI, 51 units at 60% AMI, 49 units at 70% AMI, and 2 exempt management units for a total of 200 units.
So it'll be 100% affordable. And then, what Ann broke down was the different, income levels, but it's 100% will be affordable, except for the 2 manager units.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Barry.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman. Let me lower that. Commissioner Schumacher Hodge took one of the questions I was about to ask. The same thing, asking what is the percentage of the mixed income, more or less being specific. How many folks that are low income were going to be afforded the opportunity to move in, taken care of? Thank you. Just because I'm trying to figure out where 4495 is on Stockton Boulevard, where exactly is that? Is that a part of the?
Do you remember John's Furniture?
That I do not.
Okay. Do you know where Boulevard Court is?
Give me a bigger street.
Okay, Stockton Boulevard, Kmart, the old Kmart.
Yeah.
Dang, just start with the low income and we work our way up from there.
it's across from. Well, is it directly across? But pretty close, a little more. But that's the general vicinity.
Kind of across.
Oh, with a car.
Old ADD.
Yeah, there used to be a car wash there a long time ago. Remember that?
The self-serve car wash, and gotcha.
Yeah.
Like I said, start with the low income and work your way up for me, and I'm good. I don't need a restaurant. Just start with the cheap stores. But anyway, with that, thank you for that. Actually, that the other questions I had were, last question. Director, you had stated prior to this being moved to an agenda for next week's city council meeting, but was also the timeline for submission for meeting that application date to get that tax break. Has that date also been moved out as well? And what is that date?
Yes, it did move to May 25th. May 25th. So we got a little more breathing room.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
So the questions that I had were kind of like feeding off of Barry and Cecile's. One had to do with a little bit more explanation about waiver and what does that mean? Just a little bit more. Who does it help? Who does it hurt? What's
the waiver is it's a council rule. It really isn't a housing authority rule. It's a council rule that was put into place a few years ago, that any project for consideration, or really it was contracts for consideration that over $1 million, that there would be a 10-day kind of posting ahead of time. So it was just a posting to let the public know that this is a project over $1 million that would be coming forward. So in order to find out about that, it is posted, I believe, on the website. I think it used to be on the council agenda, but it's actually posted on the website. Is that correct, Lyra? And so anyone can go to that website and see any and all, it's not just this, any and all contracts or projects or anything over $1 million. So sometimes, however, if there isn't enough time, you know, the timeline is really tight and the city and or the agency is really rushing to meet another timeline, it is not uncommon that they will ask for a waiver of that. Now, the item still is posted in enough time for review in terms of the Brown Act. I mean, so the item is still posted in that normal cycle so that people will see it. It's just kind of a additional heads up to the public about an item that's about to come forward. So 10 days before, they don't actually even see the item. So the item is not ready for review 10 days before. It's just saying, alert, this is an item that's going to be coming forward. And then it follows the normal posting, which is usually the agenda comes out the Friday before the Tuesday meeting.
And so, given Cecile's concern, has this met all those timelines? And
yeah, because in this situation, it was moved to a whole nother week. So there's been more than 10 days that it's
more than 10 days. Okay, and then on Barry's piece, if I'm not mistaken, that Kmart, and this is because I grew up in this hood, right? You know, and I'm very, very sympathetic, empathetic, and all that to the unhoused, but right across from Kmart is pretty blighted, and I don't know if the work that we're going to do is going to be conditioned on. I think that when you see, I don't even know if you want to call it homeless. I think there's another word that we've yet to have the political courage to call it, but the sidewalks have all been kind of taken over there, right? Barry, you know where South Bowl used to be back in the day? Somebody? Anybody? It was on Stockton.
My time, I don't know.
On Stockton across from Kmart, there's that South Bowl. And right now you have like Tent City Junior, and I'm not sure if it's still there, but I think that that was, to me, it really presented a health issue, especially if we're going to put something in that space across from Kmart or anywhere. It's just one of those concerns that I had, Lachelle, and it's not anything that's going to stop this from moving forward. It's just that I was wanting to know if staff was aware of that has been a political issue, and that group, that Tent City, has moved down from one part of Stockton down to where you guys are talking about developing. So I just want to make sure that everything is understood. That's all.
So Sam, this is going to be directly across from Lawrence. If you're coming up Lawrence and you cross Stockton, you'd be going right onto the edge of the property there.
Okay, and that's where Kmart is. If you guys, it's now it's an out. I think it's just an open. What do you call those developments? That just an open development. I know where Lawrence is, but even if you go Lawrence on the other side to that Jim Boy's restaurant, that area is pretty congested there. Just
so this is right directly across from the old EDD office.
Yeah, where you used to be even we used to have a theater, a community theater that took over the mailbox. It used to be a postal place, then it was the EDD. Now it's EDD, but it used to be even a theater.
I think it's empty now.
Yeah, Michael.
It's further down. Attachment 4. Attachment 4 actually does have a map.
A dry cleaner and car wash.
Yeah, there was a dry cleaner, car wash, gas station.
So mine is just, there's no, like I said, it's just an FYI. Because sometimes if we're looking at paper, that's one thing until we physically get out there and say, oh, I don't want staff walking into a political firestorm and trying
before
to.
Any project is approved, we've gone to the site.
Okay,
We
yeah.
know exactly what we're in for. And
Okay.
then also too, that's a part of the recommendations here. There is some environmental cleanup that is necessary on this particular site because of the previous uses. There are a lot of cement pads there that have to be broken up, that adds to the cost. No, we understand the site extremely well before we finance. So yes.
Okay. Mr. Chair, that's all I had.
All right, thank you, Sam. Any other questions? Seeing that Stephen Dawes is on with us, if he'd like to say a couple words, I'd be willing to have him do so.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Chair Morgan. Jen Fleming with my team is also here, who's been leading the day-to-day activities. So we appreciate the support and all the comments, and in particular, Commissioner Starks, we are, as the owners and operators of Boulevard Court, just a bit to the south, we are intimately familiar with the challenges this neighborhood is facing right now, and we're proud to have participated in the District 6 homeless plan that was presented last night, and to be highlighted as both a part of the solution in Boulevard Court and a part of the future solutions in terms of this proposal. But there are no easy solutions to the challenges right now, and we can only move forward with our eyes as wide open as possible. But we do plan to try and take control of this property sooner than we actually normally would. And we still, hope to work out some of the details with SHRA to help us participate in that, so that we can be a little more proactive with the challenges that the neighborhood is facing with the concentration of campers, while we pursue the rest of our financing and eventually begin construction. So we look forward to putting ourselves fully into finding solutions. And we know there's a lot of other efforts underway for both District 6 and District 5, which is right there on the border, and then of course the county just to the south to try and address these concentrated challenges right in this area. But beyond that, we're extremely excited to be at this stage on this project. The site is just an incredible opportunity to deliver a significant amount of affordable units in our view, in a really integrated fashion into the existing neighborhood. And so we think we've accomplished the beginnings of a really promising design that will integrate both into the city's goals for Stockton Boulevard, which, as some of you may know, they've just completed one significant planning activity around basically a complete streets and transit focused plan for all of the 6 mile stretch of Stockton Boulevard. And then there's a specific plan underway as well to address a lot of the land use challenges that exist along the Boulevard. But this site in particular, has long been a challenge for the community. In fact, when we were developing Boulevard Court over 10 years ago, many of us, Murphy Housing and SHRA, participated in a ULI study that was just one moment that was preceded by many other studies and efforts to try and redevelop mainly the site south of us, but included the John's Furniture site as well. But the environmental challenges have just long been vexing. And through our work on a number of similarly contaminated sites with the California Regional Water Quality Control Board, we were able to work with our consultants to find a solution that they have already conceptually approved that we believe very confidently that can be executed and determined and put this site in a position to be developable, that hopefully will extend to the rest of this, what is a total of 18 acres that are the shoehorn around the Jim Boys Goodwill site. And so we are hoping that we will be a catalyst for more workforce and market rate development to our south between this proposed site and the Boulevard Court site. So I think a lot of folks, including the business district, are extremely excited to finally see something happening here. And so I'm proud to be a part of that.
All right, thank you very much, Stephen. Did Jen want to say something also, or? Don't see her mic clearing there. Go ahead.
Just appreciate the council and staff's careful consideration of the development, and with your vote tonight, we hope to continue to move it forward with the city and onto our state financing and continuing the process. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there any public comment, Lyra?
We have no public comment. Thank you.
All right. I'll take a motion.
I make a motion to approve the project with the exception of the first recommendation on the public waiver. But all the other items, I make a motion to approve as stated by staff.
I'll second it.
Nunley and second by Wu. We'll go ahead and get roll call. And before we do that, I just want to mention, commissioners, if you're here, it's always good to have your camera on when you're present to not go afoul of the Brown Act. So roll call.
Amanfor,
I'd like to abstain.
Boyd,
Aye.
Morgan.
Aye.
Osmany,
Aye.
Nunley,
Aye.
Schumacher Hodge,
Abstain.
Stajabu,
Aye.
Starks,
Yes.
Wu.
Aye.
The motion carries.
All right, thank you very much. That takes us to item 6, the approval of first substantial amendment to the 2021 one-year action plan and an amendment to the citizen participation plan for the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act funding.
Good evening, Celia Iniga is the program manager in the development department. My role is to oversee the various federal funds, entitlement funds that we receive and administer on behalf of the city and the county. For a little bit of background, in March of 2020, the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Securities Act, CARES Act, was approved to respond to the growing impacts of the historic COVID-19 public health crisis. The the United States Housing and Urban Development Department, HUD, distributed federal funds directly to jurisdictions such as SHRA in 3 different rounds and specifically for 3 different funding sources. The first funding source is the Community Development Block Grant. CDBG for short, and this entitlement fund is to benefit low and moderate income residents, and it can be spent on public infrastructure such as streets or community facilities such as parks, as well as for public services, which includes we frequently fund homeless and social service programs. The second fund is the Emergency Solutions Grant, which is funding for services and facilities for the unhoused and for the prevention of homelessness. And the third funding category is the Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, which provides services and rental assistance for those persons. So the HUD provided funding in 3 different rounds for those 3 different funding sources. In addition to meeting the original intent and the regulations for those 3 funding programs, the CARES funding also needed, the expenditures need to be spent on activities for the prevention, preparation, and the response to the pandemic. So there's a couple of different layers that we, when we administer these funds, needs to meet the original intent of those 3 programs, as well as address the COVID-19 impacts. Since March, the funding in total for the Emergency Solutions Grant for just the city has been $11.6 million. For just the city, for the Community Development Block Grant has been $6.4 million, and HOPWA just a little over $200,000. We have been to you on several occasions to allocate those funds. Primarily in the city, it has been to address the unsheltered persons in our community, as well as prevention. As you heard earlier, some of that went to the homeless prevention and the SHRA 1 program. Other projects and programs funding the emergency shelter in motels, funding existing shelters such as the North 5th Street Navigation Center in the River District, providing funding as a match funding to the Home Key project, which was conversion of a motel into permanent supportive housing at La Mancha, and also to provide homeless and outreach services to those in the motels. We provided, as I said, we provided and came before for those allocations, but there remained some unallocated funds. And that's what is the proposal for this evening. So there currently remains 7.1 million in ESG funds that have not been allocated, and a little over 1.4 million in Community Development Block Grant and CDBG. So tonight the proposal is allocating to 3 different activities. So for the Emergency Solutions Grant, the recommendation is to the X Street Navigation Center and a future Home Key project. For the Community Development Block Grant, to Meals on Wheels, and also to a future Home Key project. So I'm going to give a little rationale for each one of those recommendations. For the X Street Navigation Center, earlier this year in March, the City Council approved multiple actions necessary to get that facility up and running by June. And one of those actions was to direct SHRA to allocate the ESG in a little over $700,000 in order for that facility to operate for about a 2-year period. For the Home Key project, we SHRA anticipates the state, California Department of Housing and Community Development, will release another Home Key program funding opportunity in July. And with that, this allocation of both ESG and CDBG will position SHRA to proceed quickly to apply for those funds. And the final recommendation is for Meals on Wheels. As we all aware, there's been a significant impact to the Meals on Wheels services during the pandemic. Pre-pandemic, they were providing about 625 meals a day at both their congregate sites
which are community centers, and at our public housing sites, as well as through direct delivery. Currently, in March 2021, they've experienced 115% increase. So now they're delivering all through direct delivery over nearly 1,350 meals. And although the seniors were prioritized for vaccination, participants through surveys, Meals on Wheels is finding that they are still very hesitant to come out and come to congregate sites or to even leave their home to pick up meals. So the demand continues. Additionally, there are other funding, one-time funding programs, specifically the Great Plates program and the Dine at Home program. These are going to be ending in April for the Dine at Home and in June for the Great Plates. So the demand will continue. And so we feel it's important to allocate this $450,000 for the rest of the year. This will feed up to 600 participants meals for 3 months. It will also provide funding for the PPE, which are personal protective equipment, in the event that the congregate sites decide that they are open to opening, and so to provide them the necessary equipment so that they can open their sites. I would like to address the commissioner's request around the 10-day noticing for the city. I'd just like to point out that for community development block grant actions and any of our action plan amendments require a 30-day noticing period. So this will be noticed for 30 days prior to the council meeting in both the Sacramento Bee as well as other language and other special interests. So the Observer, the Latino Times, we advertise it in a Russian paper and a Vietnamese paper as well. So we do our best to get the word out in addition to what the council action is. So with that, that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Any question of commissioners? Cecile, I see your hand up.
Of course you do. So I'm a little confused then when you said that it's posted 30 days, so you really don't need the 10 days. Then why did you request the waiver if you already are going to exceed it anyway? I guess I'm a little confused.
So those are two different regulations. So
okay.
For HUD, we have to, and we document this in our citizen participation plan for the action plan. So that 30 day is just specific to the action plan. And so we are required by HUD to notice 30 days in advance that public hearing, which will happen at the city council. So 30 days in advance, we have to notify the community. That 10-day noticing is only, that's a city regulation only. And so it doesn't impact our 30-day. Does that make sense?
Well, I'm still confused. It's not going to impact your 30-day, which I get, right. Then why do you even need the waiver? Because you're going to exceed it anyway, I guess.
So the city requires that 10-day notice. Mm-hmm. So they require it posted on their website 10 days in advance. HUD mm-hmm. requires that we post it in newspapers and our website 30 days in advance. So it's two different things. We're required to do it for HUD, and the city is requiring it because of that item before them is over $1 million transaction.
Okay.
So they're two separate requirements. Yeah. Two separate entities are requiring two separate things.
Yeah, but I think what I hear you say, Cecile, is if you did for the 30 days, then why did you need to waive the 10 days?
Right.
And really, we were focused on making sure we met the HUD requirements.
Okay.
And so then you roll around and it's like, oh my gosh, okay, technically you're right. We could have just went ahead and posted it 10 days before, but yeah, we did the 30 days.
Yeah, you've already done the 30 days, so you don't need to worry about the 10 because you met it already.
Yes, but then the city would have required us to do that. So in retrospect, what we could have done is did the 30 and then did the 10 and posted it. And then that way we wouldn't have needed the waiver.
Does something happen at the city council that starts the clock? It sounds like there's, just to get, there's still a little confusion. So when's the clock start for the 30 days? When does the clock start for the 10 days? Does the clock start at the city council when they say it's over $1 million? Or does, once it's known, does the 30, when does the clock start for the 30 days, Lachelle? Does that start when you've been approved and the money is, the proposal is there, then the 30 days start? And does that run consecutively with the city council's 10 days? Or does the city council have another clock that needs to start after they, okay, so that's.
They can be consecutive. They can be consecutive.
Okay.
And it's 30 days before the item is heard. So, and that's why, and that's why, we do all of the postings in the newspapers, all of the outreach, so, we really work to ensure that word is out in the community, for that 30 days of public comment where people could say, oh, okay, it's coming up, and they know about it in advance.
So the notices could have been concurrent.
Correct.
Right.
So by the time it gets to the city council, it should have had at least some airing time, some reviewing time, some, and thus her question about why the waiver, if that 30 days, if you back it up, right, 30 days prior to it going to the city council, or.
Yeah, because we didn't post the 10 days.
Yes. I see.
We posted the 30 days.
Yes.
So we were like, we're fully compliant. I mean,
right.
We're over compliant, but if it didn't get posted on the city's website, then you have to do the waiver. So if we had posted it on the city's website at the 10-day mark, it would be a moot issue. But we knew that we were kind of over complied because that's what HUD requires us.
Right. So you guys, you were over compliant with HUD, but the city still has their own clock.
Correct. And they're separate.
Okay. But wait. Okay, because they could have run concurrent, right?
They could
but
have.
they didn't.
Yeah. So you guys just didn't do the city one, which is why you now have to ask for the waiver because you did the HUD one.
Correct.
Is what you're saying.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. But if somebody had just thought, oh, let's shoot it to the city just as that extra, then you wouldn't need this at all.
Correct.
Is what I'm hearing. Okay.
Yes.
Now I got it. Because I didn't understand why, well, if you met the one, why not go and meet the other two?
Yeah.
But
the city won't allow us to just say, oh, you met the 30, it's no problem. No, the city's like, no, you have to put it on our website. And there's a world of difference of putting something on the website versus the extensive outreach that was done on the 30-day. I mean, that is, posted in, papers of general circulation, all the different languages that we're doing the outreach. The city doesn't do any of those things. It's just posted.
Yeah, but it sounds like the city wants to cover their butt by.
Well, but remember, the city in this requirement has not always been there. This is a requirement a few years ago that the city enacted. So.
Oh, I see.
Do we? Because speaking of those, I mean, there's a whole reason, just like with the Brown Act, and you have to do everything 72 hours ahead of time, and you have to post, and you have to make all of the materials available for the public to review. And I know, having done that, whether it was with the school district or whatnot, let's say it was the police resource officer contract that the school district was going to do. Well, I made sure I got it. I made sure I read it because it was something of particular interest to me. So this is a case where if it's something of particular interest, I'm assuming, to the public, they could go and read the contract if they so chose.
But it's not available at the 10 days.
Yeah, it's not available at the 10 days.
It's
but
just,
I'm wondering,
it's showing that there's a title. That's kind of all they see. There's no.
I thought I read on the thing that it says, at least what was in one of them on the 49, it said that the contract had to be available. All labor agreements and all agreements greater than 1 million shall be made available to the public at least 10 days prior to council action. So that sounded to me like the agreement had to be available. I could be mistaken, but that's
on the cities. It sounds like that has to be on the cities. So there's the time clock starts. The city is like, and you guys, I'm deferring to smarter and beautiful people. But the time clock for the city, we don't care about HUD. We know the time starts when it gets on our stuff, 10 days starts. So they could have already done their 30 days. The city says, I don't care. Once it has to get on our platform, and then 10 days begins. Did I get that right?
I wouldn't say the city doesn't care.
I'm not saying it doesn't care. I'm just being a little dramatic.
I'm not going on the record saying the city doesn't care.
Don't do that.
I'm curious, and you may know this or somebody may know this. This may be, like you said, it wasn't always like this with the city. Was there some issue by chance that prompted the city to do this? I'm just curious.
I can see it.
Yeah, I can't remember the details.
SHRA, but I don't remember the
there was an agreement that over $1 million that my understanding that the council felt that they didn't receive an advanced had enough time to review with the 1 week review.
Yeah,
gotcha.
For $1 million, right? I can see community groups taking the same position.
Yeah.
I gave them 30.
Yeah, you're giving out our money.
Community group got 30 days. The city only got 8. I don't know.
Yeah.
Did they actually post the actual contract though?
No, I think what they call it, well, in the planning area, it was post for publication. So it appears on the agenda. So yes, exactly that. The agenda the name is listed, but there's no actual report, just as a notification.
And there used to be a level of confusion because it would show up on the actual agenda. And so then people would come to the meeting and to speak to an item, and it kept saying, no, it's PFP, it's post for publication for this kind of, we're not talking about it tonight. And so then they started to pull it off the agenda and then put it more on the website so that people wouldn't get confused and show up on the wrong date. That used to happen all the time.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ladies. I know that was a lot, so I appreciate your giving me the little history on it.
All right. Thank you. Let's go to Barry.
Thank you, Chairman. I do have a couple of questions. The first one is the $450,000 being requested. Actually, well, it is my question. In addition to the other items that are going to be paid for out of that $450,000, how many people or how many meals are actually are made out of that $450,000?
So that would serve approximately 600 individuals for 3 months, and that would be receiving 1 meal a day, 1 meal a day for 5 days of the week, for 5-day weeks.
Thank you. I thought I heard 600 something. I just thank you for putting a finer point on that for me, which rolls into my second question. In the well, is there more funding? Is there more money available for funding the Meals on Wheels for an additional 3 months, taking it out for 6 months at this time, proposing say $900,000, and let's just knock this out for the next 6 months versus this 3 month increment, and then 3 months from now, we're back here again. If there's money still left over in that surplus of $7 million, not to change the ingredients halfway through baking the cake here, but if there is money available right now, can we just shoot for doubling the amount needed and doubling the time that it would cover?
Well, the current proposal is so the logical funds would be the CDBG. And so our current proposal is to allocate that to a future home key project. So that would expend all of the available CDBG.
And that answered that. Wasn't paying attention. Thank you. And last question is the congregant sites. Have any of those opened up in the last 2 months or so, or are all of them still shut down?
They're all still closed. So
has there been any? I'm sorry, go ahead.
And at this point, I think they're waiting to hear probably what the governor will say as far as directives. But we just put some funding in there in the event to help them to open up those congregate sites. So we're unsure, but we're hopeful.
Thank you on that, because I just wasn't, well, I'll figure it out later, but community center near me, I would have sworn folks were coming not as a sit down and enjoy your meal, of course, but a picking up from the community center. Okay, so the congregate sites are there for pickup. I thought what I was hearing from you, you were stating recipients were leery of coming to the congregant site, so all meals were being delivered out. So I was taking it as nobody was coming to any site, period. But now I'm clear. Thank you.
They have a small program. They did earlier this year survey their clients and asked, would you come? It was a program with Denny's, I believe, were to come to Denny's to pick up the meal. And I think of about the 300 folks that they surveyed, only 80 said that they would come in. So I think they're anticipating that they will continue to have to deliver a significant portion of the meal. So there are some folks that will pick up, but for the most part, they're delivering, and they want to anticipate that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
All right, any other questions?
Yes, I have a question. I heard you guys said that you were going to ensure that the community are aware of what's going on. I just wanted to make sure. I think someone had said something earlier about the Black Chamber of Commerce. Will you guys also be reaching out to that organization to ensure that they're able to send that information?
You mean specifically about the Meals on Wheels program?
Yeah, and just, you did say that you're going to be sending information out, right, to the public?
So I think that, I'll make sure I understand. So what we were talking about was notifying the public about this action, about the allocation of the funds. I think earlier the discussion around with the Black Chamber was specifically around the SHRA 2 program.
Yeah.
And so, so this for example, for the Meals on Wheels program, they have their own network, and we support them. We're just a funder.
Gotcha.
So, but we do through a variety of different avenues. They advertise in partnership. We certainly can provide that information, but I think they're much more effective than we are, since that's their specific audience.
I understand, but you said that you're going to allow the public to be aware of the allocation of funds, though, right?
Yes, so that is in the notifications that we do in the newspapers that we do. We post it on our website as well. So what we're posting, that notification is to say that taking this action, and they can go to our website to see what this the allocation is.
Okay, so is it possible for you guys to also extend that that information to those other organizations?
Do you have, certainly we can specifically, are there specific ones that you want us to notify?
I guess it's just one thing that I just wanted to make sure that the community members are aware of some of the things that's going on with the allocation of funds. I do understand that you do have certain organizations that certain pathways that you're going to be sharing this information, but I just want to ensure that especially a lot of people tend to listen to the news radio that's sponsored by the Black Chambers of Commerce in Sacramento. And I think that'd be a great way for people to really get involved in what's going on and just to get a little bit more information.
So typically, we do definitely use the Black Chamber of Commerce and their radio station. In fact, on the SHRA program, I know that I've gone on there several times. Sarah O'Daniel have gone on. We've been hosted on a couple of different shows to make sure that the information gets out to the community. In the SHRA program, we then go and track the different zip codes in terms of applications that we receive. And we also track the ethnicity to make sure that we're really getting good coverage from all of the different ethnic groups. So as that data comes in, if we see it's like, wow, we're really not getting a representation, I'm just going to make up something, in our Hispanic community, then we'll do much more outreach in that particular area. But we did extensive outreach, and I mean, every news outlet, we went on the radio station, we go on Good Day Sacramento. I mean, you name it, we did everything possible. And we did see a good, huge and robust response across the board from all of the communities, and most importantly, those communities most impacted by COVID. You know, we really wanted to make sure that we did a kind of a cross section and make sure that that outreach was occurring. So I think under the emergency rental assistance, where we were in control of the outreach, we did that. In terms of this particular funding source, that's why we do target those newspapers in communities of color. The Sacramento Observer is one we always use because we know that a lot of people read that particular publication. And then the Hispanic,
the
Latino Times. Yeah.
The
So
Russian
that's a part of why those are very specific in terms of our level of outreach on the funding. But I do hear what you're saying, and we do have a public information officer who is always working to drive things. In addition to that, I also, through social media, I post all the time, you know, so I always encourage people to follow either me or SHRA. Because a lot of people, you know, use that as their medium to find out what it is we're doing.
And also just not to limit it, not just only saying Black Chambers of Commerce, but there are a lot of chambers of commerce that are available. Yeah. So you can definitely share that information. That's the only thing I was just wondering if you guys would be able to expand that detailed information to those organizations.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to jump in a little bit here, Emmanuel, to let you know that County of Sacramento is contracted with the Asian Community Centers to do their Meals on Wheels. So it's 100% contracted out to ACC, and they have their own method of outreach, and it is substantial also. And it's a program that's available to people 60 and older in the community. So,
Thank you for that.
Sure. Any public comment, Lyra? Okay. I'm open for a motion.
I move that we approve the resolution as stated.
All right.
I'll second.
And Lou seconds. You guys have done all the motions and seconds tonight. Lyra, roll call, please.
Amanfor,
Aye.
Boyd,
Aye.
Morgan,
Aye.
Osmany,
Aye.
Nunley,
Aye.
Schumacher Hodge,
Aye.
Stajabu,
Aye.
Starks,
Aye.
Wu.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. That takes us to presentation of 7 and 8, which is the annual report to the Housing Trust Fund Ordinance, Mixed Income Housing Ordinance, Home Investment Partnership Program, and residential hotel unit withdrawal, conversion and demolition ordinance, city report, and the annual reports to the Housing Trust Fund, HTF, affordable housing ordinance, and home investment partnerships, home county report.
All right, we have Susan Vesey is here to give those two reports for both the city and the county. Are you sharing screen now?
Oh, do I?
No, I do that. Are you ready?
Oh, yes. I am.
Okay. No, I'll help you. There you go.
Good evening. I'm Susan Vesey, Program Manager of Development Finance and Portfolio Management. This evening, we are sharing with you the series of annual reports that we produce for the city and county in our role as their housing finance agency. Our function is to provide funding for new construction and rehabilitation of affordable multifamily rental housing. These reports are one of our methods of ensuring transparency regarding funding decisions. The reports also provide data to local officials on income and expenditures of local resources. The City of Sacramento and the unincorporated county each operate development impact fee programs for new market rate residential and non-residential development. The fees were created by nexus studies that correlate the demand for lower wage employment generated by the new development and the need for to provide affordable housing for that workforce. The study examines how many workers will be generated and how many of those will need affordable housing. The revenues generated by these fee programs depend on the fee level per square foot of new construction and how much building occurs in any given year. The city and county both call their fee programs associated with commercial building housing trust funds. The city's fee rate is indexed and increases on an annual basis. The county's fee has not increased since the fee was adopted in 1990. As a result, the city's fee is almost 3 times the amount of the county's, and you can see the difference in revenue in 2020.
Go ahead. You're fine.
Okay, next. I'm going to share some highlights from the reports. The reports themselves are very short, so if I didn't select the data points you're most interested in, they should be quite easy to find. So the first one is the County Housing Trust Fund. It was adopted in 1990, as I mentioned. Total fees collected through the entire time of that fee is approximately $30 million. I wanted to mention and show this that all of our fees are, when we're providing loans, they're in the form of loans. And so we get repayments, they're not granted. And so I like to highlight the loan repayments. So we're actually getting the funds back in and recycling them to loan back out. Over the course of this program, we've produced or rehabbed about 3,000 units. In 2020, we collected $940,000 from this program, and a recently completed project would be Courtyard Inn. City Housing Trust Fund, established around the same time, 1989. It's collected $36 million, loan repayments of approximately $12 million, 3,400 units constructed or rehabbed. In 2020, we collected $2.1 million. As I mentioned, this fee rate is much higher than the county's. Currently under construction, using this particular funding source is Capitol Park Hotel. We have also made commitments to Mirasol Block A, Villa Hardin, Coral Gables, and on Broadway. Both the city and county adopted new ordinances for residential construction after the last recession. As a result, neither the city nor the county has a significant build on site housing requirement. Both programs are more likely to generate fees that result in an affordable housing strategy that requires builders to produce affordable housing within their within their developments. So the county's Affordable Housing Fund, established in 2014, total fees collected thus far, $12 million in 2020. They collected $1.8 million. We've completed Courtyard Inn and Southwind Court, and we currently have a commitment for Saybrook Apartments. The city's Mixed Income Housing Fund was adopted in 2015. Total fees collected $5.5 million. Fees collected in 2020, $1 million. Under construction, Capitol Park Hotel, and current commitment for Villa Hardin and Coral Gables. SHRA, as you heard from Celia, administers the federal entitlement grants from HUD for the city and county. Home Investment Partnership Funds or home funds are one of the grants we administer, and all of those funds are used in service of multifamily rental housing production or preservation. These funds have hard deadlines for expenditure, and it is critical that we identify eligible projects so that we are never in a position of returning funds to the federal government. Just quickly, the county in 2020, our entitlement was 3.3 million. We had a loan repayment this last year of $1 million. Over the arc of the entire grant program, we've had over 5,000 units created or rehabbed. Recently completed projects with home funds, our Courtyard Inn, Pacific Rim, Rad Phase 1. We currently have commitments for Mutual on the Boulevard, Sunrise Point, and Saybrook. City Home Funds, the 2020 entitlement was 2.6 million. We had a loan repayment of 1.8 million in 2020. Have had over 5,000 units also created or rehabbed with home funds since we've been receiving this particular grant. Recent projects include Victory Trio, St. Francis Village Park, Capitol Park Hotel, Lavender Courtyard, and we have a commitment for On Broadway. So that concludes my presentation, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, questions of commissioners. I see Barry has his hand up.
Thank you, Chairman. Just one quick question. I believe it was Villa Jordan hyphen.
Villa Hardin. Coral Gables.
Thank you. Meaning that's the same place, or is it just relating that it's two different places?
That's the name of the project, and the commission saw this a little while back. So there's an existing rental housing development, affordable rental housing development that John Stewart owns, and then right adjacent there is a lot that was SHRA owned called Coral Gables, that's the street name. And so that's where there's going to be a combination of new construction and rehab. So right now that's what it's called. At the end of the day, sometimes the developers get better names for our projects. So.
If you remember, Commissioner Boyd, this is the one across from Meadowview, kind of that pinkish color building.
Right. I thought the whole area was called the Coral Gables. That's what was throwing me off a little bit. About
no, it's called Villa Hardin. Yeah.
Never mind. Thank you.
That's okay.
All right. Any other questions? Any public comment? Okay. There's no motion to vote on this, so thank you very much for your presentation. And that will take us to the executive director's report. And I know she's going to steal my thunder, but I'll let her.
I doubt it. Just really want to thank Susan and Christine and their shop. They do a lot of hard work in all of those different projects. And as you can see, is you're looking at all the different areas of funding that's available, how much it takes, and the complexity of putting together a project. It requires a lot of different kind of slivers of the pie to make it all come together. So I really appreciate their work on that and reporting out. Just two quick things is the commission meeting. We usually have 2 on the calendar. And so we'll give you a heads up if that second meeting is going to occur. And so the meeting that's on the calendar for May 19th is canceled. And so our next meeting is going to be on June 2nd. So we will see you on June 2nd. And then I just really wanted to reiterate again about the opening of the SHRA 2 program, the Sacramento Emergency Rental Assistance, and the fact that we're going to leave it open. Last time we had it open for a period of time and then we closed, and we made it very clear that we would reopen. And based on what we're seeing with applications now, we'll be able to leave it open, but we still want people to get their applications in as soon as possible. So whoever you talk to, you know, in your travels and working in the community, you know, always refer them to our website. And Actually, landlords can apply on behalf of their tenants as well as tenants. I think Olga, who is still on, she heard about it through, the property manager there who was able to get the word out. So I really want to make sure that people are getting that information out. And then I see Olga is still on. I just really wanted to personally thank you for coming on and sharing your story with us. It always takes a lot of courage to kind of, tell people when you've gone through a difficult time, and we appreciate that. And it really helps us because we go through sometimes a lot of paper, at least it seems, but hearing someone come and tell their story and personalize the work that we do, really just is so appreciated. And thank you for stepping forward and letting the commission know the impact of the work that we do and what it has on the community. And so I'm going to stop there, Gail, because I'm sure I have not stole your thunder, and turn it back over to you.
Okay, for the chair's report, I want to especially welcome our two commissioners tonight, Emmanuel Amanfor and Marisha Schumacher-Hodge. I think I said both of those right. We appreciate you joining the force and jumping in the frying pan today, if you will. And we hope that we did not scare you off tonight. Welcome aboard. Other than that, I didn't have any report to bring forward. I am excited about having two more commissioners from the city here, though. That's a good thing. So
I know we've been waiting a long time for you guys to come on board, so we're really excited to see you.
Yes. All right. Questions and comments of commissioners. The floor is open.
Let's have one.
Go ahead, Sam.
We haven't gotten any follow-up from Jazz about her LSAT. We haven't heard anything. The Logical Games knock her out of the running for being a lawyer, or did they? So Jazz, the floor is yours.
The 1.5 to 2 hours of technical errors that I had to spend with support before I started might have mentally taxed me, unfortunately. Because everything is done online. And so there was a lot of errors and a lot of stress. So by the time it came time for me to take my test, I was reading the paragraphs and questions over and over again, but I wasn't processing the information. But I applied to McGeorge, their campus locally in Sacramento, so fingers crossed.
You could try Lincoln. It's a lot cheaper.
So I'm just seeing this as a learning opportunity. But thank you.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed for you, and hopefully everything works out great.
Hopefully. I'll let you guys know.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I just want to say thank you guys. This is a real good learning opportunity. You guys really welcome me. I'm pretty sure Marisha with a lot of new information, new processes. And it's really interesting. And I can't wait to actually really dig into everything and really get the ball rolling. Thank you guys.
Absolutely. And I did have a chance just to chat with the two new commissioners, but we will have some more in-depth onboarding and be able to really, talk about all the good stuff that happens here at SHRA.
Wait until they get those big checks, boy.
You were supposed to wait so they'd be surprised, Sam, when they got their check.
So
I think Commissioner Boyd has his hand raised.
Go ahead, Barry.
Here, Morgan.
You're on, Barry.
Thank you. My clicker wasn't clicking. Thank you there, Executive Director Dozier and Chairman Morgan. To both the new commissioners, as Commissioner Emafor stated, he can't wait to process more of how this commission works and to plug in when he gets a greater breadth of what's going on. I'm gonna share this with you, with both of the two new commissioners. I think it was my first meeting, maybe the second. I asked a question, and I was told, "Oh, yes, we do that." And to my question, and then I asked, "Well, what else do we do?" And the reply I did get, you see the chairman giggle? He already knows where I'm going. I did ask, "Well, what else is there?" "Oh, there's a lot. You just got to find out." But what that stated, never be afraid to just start asking the questions. There is no bad question. The only bad question, as they state, is the one that hasn't been asked. So even if you don't think it's relative, trust me, ask the question. These folks will let you know quickly if it is or isn't, but for the most part, it will be. And as you stated, you will gain the knowledge of the complexity of this commission. Not to say this is brain surgery by any means, but there is a broad umbrella that this commission does cover, and so it is a lot of information to ascertain and to keep to retain and regurgitate out. But with that said, this is in conclusion, as you see, Commissioner Starks has no knowledge of how to use the hand raise button. So don't be afraid just to jump in and start asking questions.
Because you would wait for like until Christmas until he answers his darn questions.
Okay, this is my last statement. As the two new commissioners can see, Commissioner Starks and I go back to the 80s. So yeah, this does actually happen live on air and to the world to witness. Welcome aboard.
Well, and I think Commissioner Boyd, you bring up an excellent point in terms of asking questions. What's very helpful for staff is to hear that feedback and to hear the questions, because, you know, we can get very, very technical. I mean, very technical. And so then when we hear the questions, we're like, oh, wait a minute, you know, we need to maybe rephrase this, or we need to add, like even tonight, as Commissioner Nunley was talking about, well, I didn't think to press that button. Well, now that we look at it, we're like, we need to change what's on that button so that people understand better. So this, you know, the commission helps us, you know, in terms of how we communicate and to get the information out. And then there are times, and you commissioners remember that, where projects have come forward, concerns were raised, and we go back and we retool and we do more work, you know, to the extent that we can, and come back with what we consider a better project. So yeah, never be afraid to just jump right on in.
And we always appreciate a new viewpoint, because I've been on the commission long enough that I can develop that little more narrow vision. And I understand all the acronyms, or at least most of them. And when I don't, sometimes I look something up. But what is ACOP? Does that mean anything to you guys? See, we're going to be talking about that in a couple of months. And there's a whole ton more that will come out. And a couple of years ago, well, maybe about 5 years ago, Vicki put together an acronym list, and it might be worthwhile to dig that out. And
yeah, we still have it.
So anyway, you'll learn as you go. There's no way about it. If you don't want to, you'll still learn as you go. And as long as I've been on the commission, which I'm the oldest, longest seated person at this point, I still learn. So there's no hope. It's a learning process. Welcome aboard. And with that, if nobody waves their hand really fast, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.